This is the compact SUV from Zeekr called X, and today it's time for some proper testing. I'm gonna test real range and consumption, acceleration, cabin noise, and charging between 10 to 80%. Welcome to It's Only Electric. Let's start. So this is the Privilege version, and compared to the long range version, it's four-wheel drive. So it has two motors, combined output 428 horsepower, 543 Newton meters of torque. 0 to 100 should take 3.8 seconds. Stay tuned for my test. Top speed 180 kilometers per hour. And compared to the long range version, it has the same battery pack with the gross capacity of 69 kilowatt hours, net capacity 64. NMC pack, so charge it to 80% normally. Certified WLTP range is slightly less than on the long range version, so this has 425 kilometers. So how much of that can we actually achieve? Stay tuned for the test. So the range is also negatively affected of the bigger rim size, so 20-inch rims instead of 19 on the long range version, 245/45 all around, running on Continental Eco Contact 6. Charge port placed at the same side, the left side, as the Zeekr 001, so same as the Tesla's has. Perfectly suitable for Tesla's supercharging network, and when it comes to fast charging, DC charging, it has a top speed of 150 kilowatts. Home charging, 22 kilowatts, three-phase support. 10 to 80% when fast charging should take around 30 minutes. We're gonna test that and let's see if that's actually possible. But let's start with the range and consumption test. This is the first stretch of my range and consumption test. The test cycle is 80 kilometers long with an average speed of 93 kilometers. And it's speed between 50 all the way up to 110 kilometers per hour. So it's a mixed track. Always the same route. Conditions, 13 degrees outside, sunny weather, dry roads, so good conditions, I would say, for a decent consumption. I stick to a set of certain rules. Rule number 1, I stick to the speed limits. Rule number 2, I keep the cabin at 20 degrees Celsius and auto, and also set to eco mode in this case. And last rule, I stick to the speed limits all the time. So, with that said, there is 3 different drive modes: comfort, standard, sport. So there is no dedicated eco mode. But what I do, I double check my settings by tapping the voice assistant.
I am here.
Activate eco mode.
Driving mode is already set to eco.
Okay, so as you hear, it is set to eco, so nothing more I can do. But AC is also set to eco. Some cars doesn't handle that in a good way, but I think the cabin still feels good and the air is fresh. So AC on eco mode works fine, and therefore I'm using it. So now I'm actually driving on the LCC system active. You activate it by double tapping the right lever. Works really good. It also has this kind of a auto lane change, so it helps you, or kind of a assisted lane change, but helps you changing the lane. Now automatic lane change is active. Let's change the lane. See, yeah, okay. So it clearly shows you on the instrument cluster that it is changing the lane, shows you which place it's going to take in the left lane, and it does everything for you. Just need to hold the steering wheel. I'm not doing anything. It also shows me in the augmented reality head-up display that I'm changing the lane. Very clear and neat design and functionality here from Zeekr. Works really good. Another thing that's interesting is that if you swipe down from the top, there is a couple of shortcuts, and I have turned off the overspeed alert. That's the EU regulated overspeed alert that beeps every time you drive a bit too fast, and that gets a bit annoying, so I turn it off. But what I also discovered is that there is 2 other settings: the fatigue warning, the tiredness warning of the driver, and the distraction warning. And for those 2 functions, there's 2 cameras, one here, IR camera on top of the steering wheel column, and one up here to overview, the cabin and the driver for safety reasons. Both those are turned off. Strange thing though is that I can still drive with the LCC system active without the car beeping and warning me about being distracted. So if I look away or if I cover the cameras, I'm going to show you that, it doesn't give me any warning. And I think this is by mistake, because if I recollect correctly, that's by law regulated to be monitoring the driver all the time when the LCC system is active. So let me reactivate that again and see. Now it's active. Those settings are off. Let me set the speed here, speed limit set to 60 in this case. And there is, of course, a warning every 10th or 15 seconds about touching or holding the steering wheel. That's normal, but that's it. So now it's warning me of the steering wheel, so I'm holding it. Otherwise, or other than that, I can cover the IR camera here on the steering column, and I can cover the camera, the cabin camera, and it still doesn't give me any warning. So clearly, the surveillance, okay, that's the steering wheel holding again. So it clearly doesn't care about me doing other stuff whilst activating and driving on LCC. And by the way, there's a really good consumption app called My Car. Currently 25 kilometers put behind, that's the distance covered. I have consumed 5 kilowatt hours flat. So that's nice. Doesn't say anything about kilowatt hours per kilometer. So I need to calculate that actually. But it tells me the total consumption and the average speed and the covered distance. So I can, or I need to calculate that by myself. Okay, so the application is really good, but I'm missing some of the information anyway. I'm back, and as I said, I couldn't calculate the actual consumption in my head accurately enough, but I found out why not try the voice control.
I am here.
What is 5.9 divided by 31?
That would be about 0.19.
Okay, so average consumption currently is 19 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers flat.
Unfortunately, I can't help you with that yet.
So 19 flat. Don't miss my full review of the Zeekr X. I put the link up here and you will get a lot more facts, a lot more details about the car in general. Hitting the halfway, 39 kilometers, soon 40 kilometers past. Average consumption until now is 18.7 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. 18.7. So it's going downwards slowly. And I'm not sure, feels like it may be over-reporting the distance a little bit, which means that I may need to adjust the final consumption and have a double check at those numbers. So the consumption according to the car ended up at 18.9 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. Unfortunately, the system is lacking the average consumption, so I needed to calculate that myself by dividing the range or the distance covered by the actual consumed energy. With that said, it didn't measure the distance correctly, so it actually over-reports the distance by 3%. So the final consumption is 19.4 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. That equals to a range for the full battery pack, 100% charge, of 330 kilometers. Compared to the stated WLTP range of 425, that's 78%. So a bit far away. I hoped for a bit of a lower consumption, so still a bit high for I mean, a modern and fairly small car. So let's move on to the acceleration test. So the first acceleration test, sport mode activated, 12 degrees outside, dry roads, 74% state of charge. Let's go.
0 to 100 kilometers per hour time 4.10 seconds.
4.10 seconds, 0 to 100 kilometers per hour, or 3.86 or 87, 0 to 60 miles per hour. Let's do another one. Let's do a second attempt, state of charge 73%. Go. Zero to 100 kilometers per hour in 4.18 seconds, 0 to 60 miles per hour in 3.97. Let's do a final attempt. State of charge 72%. Go. Okay, this is the best time yet. 0 to 100, 4:05. 0 to 60 miles per hour, 3.85. And as you saw, best possible 0 to 100 kilometers per hour time was 4:05. So you can say 4 seconds flat, 0 to 100, and 3.86 seconds 0 to 60 miles per hour. That's 0.2 seconds from the specified time from Zeekr, but state of charge was fairly low for an acceleration test, so around 73 or 72%. I should have charged it a bit more before trying that out. But the good thing is that the car is really good at keeping the torque to the ground. No noticeable wheel spins, etc. It was really stable, straight line stable. The only thing that I can complain a bit about is the soft suspension, making the car really nod a lot. So when you accelerate, the front lifts a bit too much for my taste. I mean, it's good if the car is really rear-wheel drive biased, you will push the weight backwards, but it's ineffective to work that way. It's also a bit uncomfortable when accelerating because it's a lot of movement, both when accelerating and braking. But I guess the suspension is more or less tuned for comfort and not acceleration. It's time to have a look at the cabin noise, interior comfort. I measure the noise at the passenger side, head height, different speeds, 50, 70, 90 and 110 kilometers per hour. And this is the final result. Compared to other cars in the same class, this is fairly silent, I should say. It's more silent than the EX30. It's more silent than the Honda ENI1, BYD Dolphin. It's more or less on par with the Volkswagen ID.3 and also the Ford Mustang Mach-E. Let's move on to the charging, the thing you probably all have been waiting for. So I charged the car from 10 to 80%. Before I did that, I actually drove it down to 7 or 8% before plugging in the charger, and that was to heat up the battery pack. So I actually wasted around 10% of the battery, of the energy, preheated the battery pack, but I'm really not sure if the preheating works properly under a state of charge of 15%, because the top charge speed I achieved was 134 kilowatts, and that was around 17%. So that's the quickest time I saw actually. And the charge curve is not linearly tapering. It's more or less a step-by-step tapering, as you see here in the final charge curve. And the final charge speed at 80% was 46 kilowatts. Total charge time, 30 minutes and 15 seconds. That's on par with what Zeekr states. Even if I wasn't possible to achieve the top speed, I still managed to get and crank out the recommended or stated charge time. This is for sure an interesting package that will smoke most sport cars at the red light. But don't expect any sport car handling because the suspension is a bit too soft for that. And as my recommendation, I would probably go for the long range rear wheel drive version because it's quick enough. I think it's like 0 to 100 in 5.6 seconds. Yeah, we'll get more range and almost the same equipment. I mean, this one has massage seats, for instance, but you still get a nice sound system, glass roof, a bit smaller rims and rear wheel drive. But I think for the purpose of this car, I think that may be a more suitable package, and it's also more cheap, of course. That's all for today. I hope you enjoyed this video and that I could bring and shed some light on the Zeekr X for you. If I did, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe and engage. Write your comments, share your thoughts about the Zeekr X, ask me questions, whatever you want. That's all. Thanks for watching. Speak to you soon.